we ask the governments to come together, harmonize, and say we must remove these borderlines because these are the ones that are bringing conflicts.
Africa's growth potential has been increasing steadily for the past 10 decades, with the continent opening up to trading opportunities with partners beyond. However, the potential for intra-Africa trade has not yet been fully realized due to the existence of the imaginary borders within the continent.
A lot of trade goes on across all the borders. So if the border communities can collaborate, border structures, border administrative units can collaborate, eventually we would have the borders rendered meaningless. And as a result, we would broaden our economies and our economic activities along the borders.
It is for this reason, among many others, that on the 24th of June 2014, the African Union adopted the Niamey Convention, also known as the African Union Convention on Cross-Border Cooperation. This agreement aspires for a continent of unified borders and management of cross-border resources through dialogue. Signing the convention is a way to concretely anchor the Agenda 2063 at both national and local levels.
This one would be like a precursor to eventually get rid of the borders in the long run.
Despite this, the treaty has mostly been taken up by the West African region, and not a single country from the East African community has come on board. To understand what this means, we visited Busia district in Uganda. The two Busia towns, one at the far end of eastern Uganda and the other that of western Kenya. Together, they form the beating heart of the border between the two East African Community member states. With populations of more than 360,000 on Uganda's side and almost 895,000 on Kenya's side, the two communities can hardly be told apart, but rather consider themselves as one because of the numerous characteristics and resources that they share.
This clan and this clan are one clan. We are one clan. We speak the same language. We have the same totems and customs, only the border makes us Kenyan and Ugandan.
However, their social, political, and economic livelihood is continuously threatened by the fact that on paper, they are two different nationalities defined by an invisible border and inconsistent laws and policies. Honorable Sheila Kawamara Mishambi, the Executive Director of the East African Sub-Regional Support Initiative for Advancement of Women, EASI, a sub-regional NGO that mainly strengthens the capacity of women, believes that the border communities are one and as such ought to be administered as one.
Here in Busia, we have a Busia district. On the other side of Kenya, there is Busia County. So there would be collaboration between Busia County administration and Busia local government administration. And as such, they would collaborate on a number of issues: education, health, environment protection, infrastructure development.
The challenges brought about by the invisible borders for the Busia community have further been magnified by the emergence of the coronavirus pandemic. Orengo Frederick Wafula leads the Initiative for Peace and Development, a community-based organization in Busia that works with children. He shares his concerns about the suffering that he has witnessed as a result of the closure of the Ugandan border during the lockdown.
As border communities, borderlanders, most of our beneficiaries, our parents, their livelihood entirely depend on cross-border activities and movement. Then the other thing, we also have relatives whom we would love to extend food aid or services. But remember, they said if you are caught giving or helping someone with the food, you will be subjected to courts of law. So our people are dying across, they cannot access us. There is nothing, there is no statistical data, which is very clear that is coming. Every country for itself, every family for itself. Busia, we are really vulnerable. Actually, Busia is one of the vulnerable border districts as I talk now.
Deeper into Busia, Eric Omondi, A youth activist and executive director for the Alliance for Sustainable Health and Wealth in Africa, Ashwa, whose outreach touches the various lives including the young mothers of Iyala village, one of the many that makes up the joint Busia community, labors to explain the shared harsh realities that these communities have gone through since the lockdown in Uganda started.
This village where you are borders directly with Kenya. So all the merchandise that we use here is easily accessed in Kenya than it's accessed in the neighboring towns.
Some of the young mothers that Eric's organization supports grow vegetables and sell them across in Kenya in exchange for essential needs like salt, sugar, and personal effects like sanitary pads. Natocho Sharon, a resident of Biengo village, has been trading in second-hand clothes from Kenya to take care of her family and feed her child. One can almost feel the pain in her voice as the 20-year-old mother narrates her grief.
For me, I've been dealing in business, selling second-hand clothes. I've been getting them from Kenya, but since COVID-19 came, the lockdown is still this way on the border. Now I get a challenge. There's no way I can go there to Kenya and get those clothes. So it gives me a headache. I can't feed my child. I'm just there. I have nothing to do. Actually, they have to help us and open at least or reduce on the lockdown. We who are on the border, we are really starving.
Nawira Esther, a 24-year-old mother of two, says she is almost left with no options.
I was a businesswoman trading vegetables in Kenya in order to get something for my kids and I to feed on. But during this COVID-19 lockdown, I am just seated and not working.
Eric's organization supports young mothers from as low as 13 years of age by skilling them in basic family health care. We talked to Anne Mugenyi Abangi, one of the trainers, as she explains to us the magnitude of the situation during the lockdown.
They can go with only one meal for even 2 days. There is no food in the villages. The ones who have planted, those who have some soil that is really fertile, they sell, they harvest the food, they eat, but they don't have where to sell the surplus because they have been selling it across in Kenya. So they can no longer get an extra coin to take care of maybe the soap, the sugar, and the other necessities. So it has really hit them so much.
From Lugega, a nearby village, one such mother is 14-year-old Kezia, a young student who recently had her first child. She's kind enough to share with us her experience.
It wasn't something serious, he was just a friend and it resulted into pregnancy. I used to stay with my parents and they took care of me till the day I was due.
You find many of these teenage girls have given birth to children at a very tender age. They don't know how to feed them, don't know how even to breastfeed. They don't have the hygiene bit of it.
As if this was not bad enough, in case of any medical emergency, the young mothers like Kezia would rather access the clinic from the next door neighbor Kenya than in Uganda due to the proximity in location.
From here to the clinic, it takes me 30 minutes.
The nearest health facility, you will see probably, is nearer to Kenya than it is here in Uganda. So if one of their children is sick, if there's an immunization program in Kenya, they would rather go for that program there than do it for the one here. But Kenya will not allow them because they are Waganda. They don't have IDs, they don't have all the vitambulishos Kenya would require. So that's why we kept on pushing, and we still advocate for the signing and ratification of Niamey Convention, because with harmonized policies, East Africans are able to get services from wherever they are without segregating on the basis of you're Ugandan, I'm Kenyan, and you're so on and forth.
The community is in such a desperate situation that members have turned their hopes to smuggling. This situation has left a lot of pain and suffering for the young mothers that the organization supports.
Smuggling has increased. With this porous border, many are using the panya routes. And you find people bringing to the shop rice, they're bringing sugar, they're bringing this. But how is it coming about? Because of the lockdown, because the prohibition of crossing the border, they have to maneuver, get ways of how to survive.
Since they closed the border, these people have been crossing back and forth. And the only ugly issue in that is that they are using bushes.
The signing of the Niamey Convention would help people like Kezia's mother, who formerly worked as a maid in Kenya, but lost her job when Uganda locked the border. She can hardly take care of her 6 children, a grandson, and the newest member of the family, her granddaughter Vivian.
I've done their work of maid.
Although Eric may be well off compared to the people that he supports, he too is not immune to the painful dilemma that comes along with living in the border community.
I'm a product of a cross-border relationship. My mother is Kenyan, my dad is Ugandan. We mostly have a kitchen in Kenya. We joke around and say we have a living room in Uganda. So how should you close the border when I get 98% of my commodities in Kenya than I would get in Uganda?
Even the legendary Ugandan politician Honorable Agri Awori has ever been in such a predicament.
We had a classic example where we had a minister in Uganda who is Honorable Agri Awori. He comes from Busia here. His brother was the vice president on the other side. And when his brother was the vice president, he could no longer cross the border here freely because it would be breaking protocol. He had to fly to Kampala, to Entebbe, and then drive to come to see his brother.
You find one is digging the other side, another is digging this side of the border. But they cannot see each other eye to eye. And yet the land is similar. They are people of the same family that have been only divided by that one borderline.
Eric takes me to one of the porous borders that crosses into Kenya. And as we approach, I wonder, is it like the Great Wall of Mexico? But my curiosity is sooner laid to rest.
That's already Kenya. You can see the homes, and that's where the nearest shop is.
Dennis Philip Oduma, the coordinator of the Busia District Farmers Association, shares the experience that the farmers in the district have been going through.
As a farming community, we rely so much on Kenya for much of what we produce and what we need to produce. So you realize that our farmers, at time of planting, like at this time, there is demand for fertilizers and good quality seed. On the Ugandan market, we do not have that good quality seed because much of it has been, we have a lot of counterfeit seed on the market. So we prefer to get good quality seeds from the Kenyan side. Even the fertilizers, currently we do not produce any fertilizers, I think. So we get it from Kenya. So at this time, farmers are struggling to get where to get those good quality inputs. So it's very expensive if you have to get them because you have to invest in some good amount of money. You have to bribe the security people around. Transport is very expensive because the border people do not want to go that side. So now farmers are finding it hard to access the good quality inputs at this time of planting. But also on the marketing side, you realize that much of what we produce, we sell it to Kenya. So as long as the border points are closed or there are restrictions in movement, then what we produce, we are going to leave it.
Like Philip, Mariam Babu, the chairperson of the Busia Women Cross-Border Traders Association, has personally made huge losses since the lockdown in Uganda started.
I used to sell at least 6,000 trays of eggs every week because I could offload 2 trucks weekly, each carrying 3,100 trays, but that immediate closure of the border made me lose out on my clients. Most of my customers I had were Kenyans, but this time they had nowhere to pass to access me. This resulted into the big stock that I had at the time going bad. Most of the eggs I had went bad and I ended up counting huge losses.
There's a time actually people are moving around with eggs, selling eggs in the villages because they had come to the market and they wouldn't go to Kenya. So people decided to be moving around selling the eggs. So you realize that our market, our major market as a community, Busia market, is in Kenya. So as long as it's cut off, then either you sell at a very low price or you leave your commodities in the house.
Sarah Nambuya, a person living with disability, is a wheelchair trader and transporter. She is part of a group of persons living with disabilities that uses the lower dock of their wheelchairs to transport merchandise across. She says that some of them have been pressed for money in form of bribes.
We never used to pay. We had free access across the border. But now things are tough because even now from there, you have to pay for yourself, the person, to enter, and then they count the merchandise you're carrying and charge it too. For instance, I have paid 5,000 Ugandan shillings, and also in Kenya, I paid 50 Kenyan shillings. So you find that there is no profit for you to share with the owner of the merchandise. Basically, we find a lot of hardships. The police has been harassing us ever since the lockdown started.
Meanwhile, back in the town area and at the Busia one-stop border point is the Amalgamated Transport and General Workers Union, ATUGU, a borderland organization that advocates for the human and labor rights of female sex workers and truck drivers at the Busia border. This organization is deliberate in its call for the signing of the Niamey Convention because of the unbearable challenges that their beneficiaries are going through during the coronavirus pandemic. Charles Ayet, a Ugandan truck driver, says permission to transport goods in and out of Uganda and Kenya during the lockdown triggered a number of challenges for his businesses. He explains further.
You always face a lot of delays. More especially, you can live from Nairobi to the border. You can take like a week or two as you are waiting for your results. Sometimes results actually take long to come. Sometimes they come and some are missing. So you realize in the course of that, sometimes you are forced to stay for another 1 week waiting for the result.
For Faith, a Ugandan sex worker, the closure of the imaginary border has troubled her and her colleagues much more during the coronavirus pandemic lockdown.
So the government, even the police, took an advantage of using this COVID-19 to harass our business, thus closing lodgings, closing club, and most of us sex workers, lodgings are our main hotspot, and clubs, we like clubbing, and those in clubbing, we hook our clients there. So it affected us and they harassed our work.
Appeal Ruth, the project manager, shares her views.
When the Niamey Convention is signed, we shall not have any differences on the border because we believe we are the same people. Either Kenyan or a Tanzanian, we are the same people, and therefore we don't have to segregate each other.
According to Honorable Kawamara, the signing of the Niamey Convention will go a long way in solving Africa's biggest cross-border trade problems and promoting intra-Africa trade. She stresses that many of the challenges experienced during the coronavirus lockdown would not have been in play had Uganda and Kenya adopted the Niamey Convention.
This convention is aimed at promoting cross-border collaboration, because with that we would have border security harmonized, we would have border health issues sorted, and even trade would flourish in such a scenario.
Join us therefore as we call for the signing of the Niamey Convention.